I mean, besides the... I'm looking back over my hints. There was a determinant by hand, inverse by hand, bigger determinant by hand. No full RREF this time, besides the fact that you're going to have to fill in one of those boxes blanks. In row echelon form. Is that the only one that's there in?
I think so. It says, and have a left there, looks like.
Are there ones with boxes that you need to fill in? My advice, I mean, you could use your calculator, right? You could go straight there, especially on test reviews. I don't check the work too closely. But my advice, if that's the only one, is to do that one, just because then you have the row operations down to be able to fill the blank when you get there. But that's just my advice. KJ, you were listening to that too, right? Cool. All right, so as we get into our tests, for those of you guys that are not with us today, I guess, Laurel, it's just you. I just gave hints about the test. I will run through those once I get the kids working on things. I'll run through them for you as well. Or if anybody else wants to check out this video later because you didn't get them all written down. I'll go through those hints one more time, but right now we're going to go ahead and grade what has not been graded yet. You guys are double checking 8.4. Did we never grade that one? Okay, so 8.4, let's go ahead and grade quick, and then 8.5. I thought we graded it. I apologize. I got off somehow. Number 6 is -10. Number 16 is 34. These are little baby determinants of 2x2s. Ooh, that was something on the test.
Oh.
Me. Main minus opposite. Boop, boop. Number 44, you guys were supposed to solve it a couple different ways just to kind of practice and see which one was easier, if there was one that was easier. This one didn't have many zeros on the outside, but tons of zeros on the inside. This one had zeros on the outside, but not many zeros on the inside. I don't know, some of you might have thought this one was easier. That's kind of why they wanted you to do it 2 different ways. But both answers were 64. Remember, tomorrow, I said there's going to be one long answer that's only a 3x3, so not this big, not this bad. But then the bonus is something bigger, but with a lot of zeros. Number 56, they told you which one to go through, or which one they thought was best, I think, with all kinds of zeros. You just did a little quick little main minus opposite. Boop, boop. -66 was it. Number 62, final answer is -100. Took a little bit of work. Ooh, there were quite a few zeros in this one. And then number 86, ooh, there's a determinant, but an equation-y one with x's in it. That sounds kind of like a hint I gave. X equals -1 or 3 because you had to factor. We're just going to keep grading. That way we can get it done. And then if anybody needs questions, I will try to answer them for you. Number 85 gives us collinear and cryptogram. Number 10 was just taking the system. Ooh, I did not say Cramer's rule. On the calculator section, I think there is a Cramer's rule where you have to show me the formula, but then you can just do the rest of the work in your calculator. Does that make sense? You can show me the formula. Just show me that you know, and I think I even stated in the question itself, solve with Cramer's rule. You can just show me that you know, hey, to find x's, replace the x column. To find y's, replace the y column. But then you can use your calculator to do all the determinant stuff. That's totally fine. And it wouldn't be too bad if it was a 2x3. If it was a 3x4, it would be kind of gross. So 7.5. Number 42. Final answer was y equaled 3. That was one where you had a y kind of in the middle, and so you had to do by hand work to get to the y. Oh, hey, and the hint was collinear, right? I think that was on the test. The hint was collinear. The determinant had to be 0 if it was collinear. Number 54, you were trying to, now guys, the book goes like ridiculously crazy on doing this. Let's check it. Literally, multiplied each individual row of the message. That's so annoying. Couldn't you have just made this a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 by 3? Just make it 1, 6 by 3 and multiply once. Like, look at all that extra work. Ugh. Anyway, the final encoded cryptogram is 13, 19, 10, -1, -33, -77, 3, -2, etc., etc. And that's just seeing if you knew how to take the message, put the message into numbers, make that a matrix, and multiply it by the encoder. Still my throat. Number 64, right down below. You have to use the inverse. Oh, this is the nasty one. 64 is way harder than any of the ones tomorrow. This is the one where you knew the end of the message was Sue and you were working your way backwards. Ooh, anybody ever watch the movie on the Enigma machine? No, we didn't watch it. Just kidding. It wasn't called the Enigma Code. What was it called? It was the one with Sherlock, or the guy from Star Wars. Benedict Cumberbatch? Yeah. It was with him. Not Star Wars. I meant Star Trek. He was the bad guy, right? Yeah. Thanks, Sophia. Sorry, wrong one. He was in Star Trek. And he was obviously in the Marvel movies. Doctor Strange. But anyway, he had a movie. Why can't I come? Yeah, it had some interesting parts that probably weren't super appropriate. But the Enigma Code, the Enigma Machine, that was what it was called. Anyway, it was talking about how they were able to decipher the Nazis' coded messages because they remembered that, or somehow they figured out that every message started with, oh, what was it? It's been too long since I watched it. I thought you guys would know it. No. Was it Hail to the Führer or something like that? I don't know. Heil Hitler? Maybe it was just that. But every message started the same, and so they were able to figure out from how it started, or maybe it was how it ended. I think it was how it started. They knew the first little bit, and from that they were able to basically decipher the entire thing. But it was just crazy, like it was impossible to decipher because they would change the code like every single day or every single hour or something. Anyway, so even though this one was super annoying, it actually had some historical significance in the sense of if you could figure out one little piece of a puzzle, one little piece of a coded message, you might be able to unravel the entire thing. Okay, anyway, way harder than anything else that you guys are going to see as far as that last one. Is there anything that you guys think skills-wise or directions-wise or matching it up with an answer-wise that you guys want to see 8-4 or 8-5? At this point, you can just be working on the review. Totally fine. But if you want to ask me something, now's the time. Imitation game. Thank you. That's what it was called. Yes, if you don't need me. Megan. Yeah. 44. Ooh, okay. So this is one of those where you're finding the determinant by hand. Megan, for tomorrow, it's a little bit bigger than the one that'll be required, but it might be the same size-ish as the bonus. So let's check it out. In letter B, let me check your cofactors. Remember the cofactors need the signs? So Alan, looking at this, remember we have to do the positive, negative. So it'd be negative, positive, are the signs that we're doing. We're going to have 0, technically negative 0, plus 0. And I could do the minus, but it doesn't matter, right? Just times those, but then check, I have a minus, and then the negative 2, and then. Okay, let's check it. What do we have if we're doing is minus? That'd be 7, 0, negative 6, 6, 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 1, 4. And then the last guy is 0. So that's the guy that we're focused on. Are we so far so good? Which, did you choose the first row to keep going? I figured this was 0, but I thought I'd double check. So that'd be a negative negative 2, which would be a positive 2. I'm going to put that way in front because he has to multiply by the entire other. And then we get to go ahead and reevaluate, not where this guy was, but where he currently is. So it's going to be positive, negative, positive for my sign. I'm going to have 7. Alright guys, remember, you need to whisper or else I'm not going to let you talk. So we have 1, negative 2, negative 1, 4. And then we have the 0, no big deal. And then we have the plus, keep it the same, negative 6. And then we have our 6, 1, negative 3, negative 1. Oh, that's not good. So far, so good? Okay, so then we have 4 minus 2, which will be 2. The 0 doesn't matter, so that's okay. Minus 6. And then we have 4 minus 2 is 2. Then we have negative 6 minus negative 3. So negative 6 minus negative 3 would be negative 6 plus 3. So negative 3. All of that is times that 2 in front. Then I have 14 plus 18, which will be 32, and 32 times 2 is 6. And good review too, as far as this month, especially for that long answer. But that one will only be a 3 by 3, which is a little bit nicer. Okay, anything else? 8-4, 8-5 I can help with? Okay, then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to read off to Laurel what those test topics are in case she checks this out. But for you guys, this is what I showed KJ just a second ago. This is what's helpful, I think, for filling in the boxes of like 8.1, or for, like Emily was saying, for practicing the RREF by hand, which once again is not a huge topic tomorrow, but still would be useful to review. The procedure to what we're doing is to get those 1s that we need. If anything is ever becoming a 1, remember, there's been multiplication by the reciprocal. So multiplying by 1 over 8, or if we were doing this guy, it'd be multiplying by 1 over 5, or multiplying by 1 over negative 4. But remember, whatever you're doing happens to the entire row. And if we're getting a 0, then what we're doing is we're multiplying, in this one it'd be row 1, we're multiplying wherever the established 1 is in a column by the opposite number, or the opposite of the current entry that we're trying to eliminate. Multiplying, in this example then, the top row by negative 5 all the way across and adding it to row 2. That's how we're going to go ahead and get that 0, but it happens all the way across, not just with right here and 0, but also with the 9 halves and the negative 27 eighths. You need to follow this formula. But remember, tomorrow I'm not necessarily making you do a big old huge long one by hand. I probably should, but I'm not. Instead, I'm having you maybe fill a box here or there on a multiple choice. And otherwise, just showing you know how to use RREF. Okay. All right, let me read out these topics for Laurel. You guys are working on your review, and then I'll see if you guys have gotten stuck anywhere in the review, or if there's any place in the review you want to go over. But this is good for 8.1 for filling in the box. Okay. So, topics on the test. For anybody checking out the video, I'll go through them one more time. I was letting them know that there are 2 parts to the test. There's the non-calculator portion and then the calculator portion. I'm pretty sure I'm going to have the non-calculator portion go first just because it might take you a little bit more time to do the by hand work, and so I don't want you to spend too much time on the calculator part and then not be able to finish the test. But you will need to know how to be able to use your calculator as well. So let's go through the topics on each part. The non-calculator part is going to have a few multiple choice, like 7 or 8. And then a couple long answer. 1 is a bonus, and 1 is like a no, show this. In the multiple choice, I see things like order. I see things like finding an x or a y in an equal matrix, adding, subtracting, multiplying by a scalar, doing some of those basic operations, but also doing things like multiplication of matrices by hand, but they're not super big. Just make sure you remember when multiplication is legal and when it's not legal. Sometimes it leads to an impossible answer. Talked about finding an inverse by hand, talked about finding a determinant by hand, but both of little baby 2x2s using the formulas that we know. And then the long answer that's required. I do say expand by cofactors to find a determinant, but I also said that I would take the 3x3 because that's its size, shortcut of main minus opposite, but that one, a lot of mistakes can occur, so just be careful. You're not going to have your calculator on it. If you do choose to expand by cofactors, you can choose any row or any column that you want, but once again, it is a 3x3 solving for a determinant by hand. And then there is a determinant that's a bonus, but it's quite a bit bigger. But Sophia was like, wait a minute, what if we want to take time on that, but we've already turned it in? We didn't know how long the test was going to take us. I gave her the hint of there being a lot of zeros in that one. When we went over homework questions a second ago, I kind of alluded to that one too. The calculator part, there are problems where you have to fill in, like the boxes in homework, but these ones are more like ... You're going to have to fill in what's missing when a row operation's been done. That's kind of like 8.1, the fill in the boxes problem. You might have to distinguish between row echelon versus reduced row echelon versus not at all row echelon. I gave the hint that you might need to square a matrix and know how to do that legally, but you are allowed to use your calculator on any of these that I'm talking about. There is one where you have a huge old massive system that would take you forever and ever to have to actually do row reduced echelon form to if it was by hand, but it's in the calculator, so know how to use RREF. And when the kids ask, I let them know, yeah, no, that's one that if you know how to use your calculator, you shouldn't have to show any work on. There are some like determinants, solving by hand. Not that it's on the calculator portion, but maybe there's like a variable or something in there where you have to do a little bit of extra work to get to it. Finding determinants on your calculator, I mentioned Kramer's rule. Kramer's rule is going to show up, but you just need to write out the rule. You don't need to actually solve that whole thing by hand. You can use the calculator to solve for the pieces of the fractions. Talked about area of a triangle, talked about collinear, maybe with a variable involved. And then talked about what if you have a message that they want you to put into a code. Do you know how to put all that in your calculator, how to multiply, and what that encoded could look like? And then the bonus is a hidden message. I give you the encoder, I give you the hidden message, and I ask you guys to try to find it. But that's a bonus as well. All right, cool kids, I'm going to stop talking. If you don't have any further questions for me, if you do have any questions on the review that you guys have been working on, now would be a perfect time to ask. Anybody gotten stuck anywhere in the review? Number 9. Is this the review? Yeah. Nope. Sorry. Number 9. Okay, number 9 is that one where it's asking you to write it in row echelon form. It's reminding you that it's not unique, which is kind of tricky. Because then you're like, wait, there are tons of different ones. How do I know if I found the right answer or not? As far as writing it in row echelon form without having solutions. I'm just going to show you one way, and the nice thing is this type of question isn't specifically on the test. There's a system one where you use RREF, but that's going all the way to the answer. It's not one of these where you have to actually rewrite it. But if I were you, I totally would have interchanged row 2 and row 1 first. That makes life a whole lot easier. We're just doing this to review how to do our operations, so we're ready for those fill in the box ones. If we switch those two, we have our 1, we have our 0, our 2 can be eliminated pretty quickly. Let's see what I did. I did R1 and R2 switched. Okay. And now I'm going to do negative 2 times R1. Remember, multiplying wherever that 1 is in that column by the opposite and then adding. That's how I always do 0. I have to do that for every single entry. So negative 2 times 1, negative 2 plus 2 is 0. But keep going. Negative 2 times 2 is negative 4 plus 2. Negative 6 plus 2. What's really nice is our job, now that our first column is done, is to go to our second column, but our 1 is already there. That makes our life a lot easier. because now I just need to go ahead and tackle rows 1 and 3 with those coefficients to try to make them 0, try to eliminate. And to do that, once again, multiply wherever the 1 is, which is now row 2, by the opposite, and then add. So for the first guy, negative 2r2 plus r1. For the last guy, positive 2r2 plus r3. The middle guy's staying the same. So when I multiply that middle guy, first of all by negative 2, well 0 times anything, 0 plus the top. Negative 2 plus 2. Negative 2 times 1, negative 2 plus 3 is 1. Multiplying now, everything is exponent by 2. 2 times 0 plus 0. 2 times 1 minus 2. 2 times 1 minus 4. Here's the first time I actually need to multiply by a reciprocal to get a 1. But it doesn't really change much because times 0 times 0. Did you find it?
Yeah, and the top is different than the bottom. Oh,
Did it say row echelon or reduced row echelon? Oh, so we can stop because technically we're allowed to have. Sorry, I might have kept going too far. I got a 0 up when I didn't have to.
all of these ones.
Yeah, you only have to do the 1s and 0s below. So I could have knocked this guy out.
Okay.
And I would have still had my, and that technically would have been row echelon form once I got my little 1 down here.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. That could have been row echelon. I forgot it wasn't produced. Anything else you guys have gotten stuck on? Okay, let me know if you do. You still have 10 minutes? A little bit more than 10 minutes? Just get my attention. Oh yeah, I might have been by myself. Let me know if you need me. You guys can feel free to move around. You can feel free to talk because I'm not talking. Thanks for being considerate of others. Yeah. Yeah. You can do that. You know second x to the negative 1? I know how to put in a matrix. Okay. Then do you know that from the home screen, here's your second code. That you can first of all go get any of those matrices that you made and make the angles right. You can also go do a lot of things. The most important of which is the determinant, and then RREF. Determinant will ask you about because it is like a dot product of vectors, and that is just a characteristic of matrices, not just like I don't know its full meaning, but it is a key characteristic of matrices that can be used in a multiple. These little absolute value bars for these little DET. The reason why it's saying that is because you have determinants only exist associated. And then you scroll down to the RREFs. Those would be taking a big old system of equations for x and y's and z's and w's. You put that whole thing in the calculator with all the coefficients and the equals. And when you hit RREF, it says I'll take it and go as close to the identity matrix. Yeah. That's just not very good because you have a 5 by 4 message. So it doesn't really have any real desired applications as far as like X, Y, Z, because that would have
Yeah, like if you like create 2 rows or 3 or 4
RAF is like getting down to this, where if I have, because these are only 3x3, so it's not even, you have to have that extra like to actually be solving. You can't just have them back to or just solving. But if I did have like a A and B and C over here, I could say Z is equal to 2, for instance. I could plug that in and get Y is equal to. So REF is good for back substitution. But REF is good for this and going all the way down.
What do you do about the X and Y? Just plug it in a number without putting it.